Hi, Beth.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. Doing good.
Where are you? What part of the world?
I'm in Ohio.
Ohio. I'm in Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Heat wave.
We're having a bit of one too.
Are you?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I bet it's not as hot as where you're at.
Well, July's the hottest month, so we kind of know that.
Yeah.
But I'm leaving for Ireland tomorrow, so I'm going into rain and cooler temperatures. So ready for that one.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah, can't wait.
All right. So I'm just gonna jump right into my questions if that's all right with you.
Of course.
All right. So Holistay is your first feature film. First of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But how does it feel to have your first feature done out in the world and all that?
Well, I can breathe out a bit. It's about a 2-year process, which is pretty normal from start to finish. And then start to actually till it's distributed and up and running. So it went up yesterday. So I'm just continuing with my interviews, and then then you see the results. It's on Amazon Prime Video and VOD. So the distributor will give me a ticker list of how it's doing. So so there's that. And then I guess there's just the fact that I finished it and it's done. So it's relaxing to know. I had a little premiere, friends had a premiere party for me last night here in Vegas. And, that was a little, even though they're your friends and you invite people who you think are like-minded and, film watchers or horror watchers, you don't invite everybody because not everybody's cup of tea, but just the general consensus that people, they laughed at certain things or they applauded at certain things. So I think when you're with a live audience, that's so important to see real live audience reaction. So that's sort of a relief that that's over with, because you really just don't know. It's kind of like you don't know what your child's going to look like till it's born. So you just don't know what people are going to think of your movie, and it's unrealistic for any filmmaker to assume that everyone's going to like their movie. So you have to have reasonable expectations. I'd say it's more of a thriller, psychological thriller than a horror movie. There are some elements in there that are considered horror, but looking at the films today, a lot of them have a lot of death, a lot of blood. And that's not my movie. So it's again, it's audience. Everything is based on audience reaction. You make the movie that you want to make, and you hope other people will like it. And that's really all you can do. You can't make a movie that you think other people will like, because that won't work. You have to make the movie that you like, that you want to do, and then others hopefully will like it as well. So all that is sort of, the stress level of that is ebbing now, and over time, and then until you start your next one, then it starts all over again, right?
Um, and it's always my experience that filmmakers always are juggling multiple projects, or they're at least overlapping. So can you explain a little bit about how you decided on Holistay being your debut?
So I had done a documentary. I had been a political journalist, and then I had produced. I'm from Philadelphia originally. So I was a political journalist in Philadelphia, and I was producing political debates for Comcast. I was also on a political talk show. And then I did a documentary called Electile Dysfunction, about the dysfunctionality of the American voter. So I liked that experience of producing and sort of directing in that capacity. And I had also been on the board of the Philadelphia Film Society, which they had a big film festival back then, international festival. So I had watched a lot of film. I always loved film. I watched a lot. I met a lot of producers and directors. Not necessarily the actors would come to the screenings, but the producers or directors would sometimes come. And so I liked the business part of it. So when when my paper got down, when my column got downsized, and as all newspapers were, that life was ending around 2008. So I decided I was going to just do film work. I moved to LA in 2010, and I started working on other people's projects. And then I felt, look, I can do this. You have to build enough confidence, and then you have to get supporters, you have to get investors and things like that. So I had developed a project that I was actually funded. And then over time, like by the time we got into, I said 2010, but several years I worked on other people's projects. And then I had funding for a project that fell out during the COVID times. So that ended. So I had to retool and think what I want to do for a feature. And I've always liked ghost stories. And it seemed like an easy thing, a realistic thing to do during that time frame. So that was about 2 years ago. And so I started to think about it. And then I know actors, some of them I've known for a while. I always wanted to do a project with them. So I'm writing the script. I had them in mind. It's only 6 characters. So I like feature. I prefer it because being a reporter all these years, there's deadlines, and then everything has to be factual, right? Now I can be creative. I can make things up. It can be fun. You can have a story behind it. So I like features. I want to do more. I want to do Holistay 2, Holistay 3. It's a trilogy, actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that Breaking Glass Pictures made a comment about being anticipated for a sequel. So that's good to know that it's going to be a trilogy. That's awesome.
Yes, I've halfway through the second script. So we'll see. Won't be shooting this year. It'll be next year, next spring. It takes a while to get everybody organized. And then you want to see how this one does too. Like I said, it just came out. It's early. So we'll see. But I'm very thankful for Breaking Glass for distributing my film. It's very important for indie filmmakers to have independent distributors, and their company's gotten quite big, so I encourage filmmakers like myself to try to get distribution as early as possible. If you can just send a treatment, or you can get to know some distributors, go to some festivals, so networking if you can, and just try to get a deal together. It's so much better to know as you're shooting that you have a way for people to see it, right? Because a lot of films just don't make it. And all that passion and work and funds that go into a film, it's really hard when nobody sees it. It's kind of like you do a painting and you put it in the closet. You have to, someone wants to appreciate your work. So that, and thank you to people like you who help us get our word out, your podcast and interviews help us very much. So thank you.
Well, of course, we definitely do what we can, for sure. In the press notes I received, you had made a comment that women filmmakers should be able to successfully tap into the horror and thriller genre and create a larger presence in this medium. Was that something that came about before working on Holistay, or did it kind of develop after the fact?
No, I've always looked, and if you look at who the top tier horror thriller directors are, one of my favorites, Alfred Hitchcock, and like Shyamalan. I like stories. But if you look at, there's not a lot of women directing horror films. I think you might find more of them in the UK. I'm not saying they don't, but you just, when people say to me, what comes to mind as your favorite director or, filmmaker in horror, I can't think of a woman. I think of these men that I mentioned. I don't know, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. Okay. One of the best horror books of all time, and spun a whole lot of movies inspired by it. I don't know why women don't gravitate more towards supernatural. and I think another reason why I got picked up is because I am a woman doing horror, I think, or thriller movies. But yeah, I don't see as many women as men in this genre. And I'm not sure why, because women are great storytellers and they can weave a great narrative. And so I said that comment because I think it's true that women need to tap more into the genre. People may disagree with me, but that's just what my thought is on that topic. I think we should have a lot more women doing these, doing thrillers and horror and things like that. I know women don't like slasher. I don't particularly care for a lot of blood and gore. I'm not criticizing other people's work. I know a lot of people like that genre. That's not me. I like stories. I like less violence and more story. I don't think you need to desensitize somebody so much, because if you've been to those movies where it's constant, and by the fifth death, you're kind of like, okay, another death, right? I like to build up to the death and the suspense of it. So yes, that's my answer. I think we should have more women, and I'm happy to be able to tap into that whole genre and get noticed for it. So.
For sure, for sure. And kind of speaking to the narrative, you're also the writer for Holistay. What inspired the actual story behind the film?
So again, when I was sitting around, I was trying to think, after my other movie got busted out, I was trying to, or, unfunded. I was trying to think about what I could do that would be simple, in one location. And that's not uncommon for these kind of movies to be in one location. Halloween 1, one of my favorites, was all in the house. Michael Myers, most of it, right? I go back to The Strangers in 2008. If you saw that movie with Liv Tyler, that was a whole lot of in one cabin in the woods, right? And like Shyamalan, Knock on the Cabin, that just came out in February, one location. So it's not uncommon to have one location for your film, this kind of type of film. And then character-wise, you don't want a lot of characters if it's going to be character driven, because you don't want too many plots going on or too many things, and budget reasons too. So I have 4 leads and 2 supporting. So I'm writing this and I'm thinking, my husband's from Ireland, and I've always liked ghosts and banshees and druids, actually priests. They're good guys. I made this one not good, but all that spirituality that flows through that region, Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, I wanted to do something like that, but I'm not there to shoot. I'm here, but I actually shot in Vegas in my house. The story takes place in San Diego. I put it in that setting, but I wanted some of those elements incorporated. So I made one of the couples Irish. So that's how it was in my sort of, and then I'm thinking, okay, so everything's going to build up to the end. So I love writing dialogue. So a lot of dialogue was easy for me. This one says something, this one answers, and then we go along. And I wrote the script in, I'd say, 6 weeks. I already had identified the actors. I had already reached out to them. I sent them a treatment, and they were like, great, we're in. Well, they need the script, right? So then I already had the story of how I wanted to do it. So I think as a filmmaker, if you know what you want to do, it's really easy to move that forward. And Holistay is actually a British term for staycation. Stay at home vacation. So everything flowed out of that, although it wasn't really much of a vacation for any of them, right? Be careful who you book with.
Yes. Yes. You made a comment that you filmed in your house.
Yes.
Like, what was it like doing that?
So, well, that wasn't my plan. That was not my plan. A lot of people think, why would I want to do that? That's ridiculous. A lot of work, right? I started out with looking at locations, right? So Vegas is not quite the town that LA is. There is a great film office here. There are some houses that list. I went around, but they all had restrictions. You have to be out by 8 o'clock. You can't leave the equipment there. A lot of these people lived in the house already. So there's that, people are coming in. You don't know, you don't want all these people floating around. So that became complicated. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to shoot it in my house, then I can control the narrative. They can stay as late as they want. I don't care. You can put all the stuff in my garage. Perfect. I know where everything is in the house. I know where everything is, it's my own film set. Sent the husband away for the week, sent the dogs away, and it became a film set. I had great PAs that helped me every morning. They'd come in, we'd clean up, we'd get the coffee on, they'd go pick up the breakfast, and then after the 6-day shoot, I had a cleaning team come in and clean everything up. And that was it. And it was easy. I would do it again in my house. Holistay too, in the house. It's amazing how you can, I know why, it's so moving from location to location, and these huge budget movies, they have the trailers and, but it takes so long to set up for a scene. So lots of scripts are shot out of sequence, because if you're set up in one area, you're going to do everything that's in that area, right? And then you'll move to the next area, anything in that particular time, or like at night shoots. So that's why some of these, huge movies in different locations, they just take a while, because it takes so long to move everybody and move the lighting and the equipment. So the less of that you have, we only had a 6-day shoot. That's all we had. So, it worked. It worked. At least I think it worked.
I think it worked. What is something that you're just so excited for people to see when they watch the movie?
The ending. Got to get to the end. Everything's about the ending. It all just goes along. It doesn't matter what they're doing, because the outcome is going to be the same. That's the outcome. But in the interim, you want people to get to know these characters. Because if you don't know them or don't care about them, whether you like them or don't, you're not going to have any reaction to the ending. So you build that time frame into getting to know them as much as you can, so that, if you start out in the very beginning with something with the character, you don't know the character, so you don't really care what happens to the character. But as you build these people along in this time frame, my film is almost 90 minutes. It gives you enough time to get to know them. And so then when you get to the end, that's when you will have your reactions to it. Some people figure it out right away in the beginning, and most don't know. They can't figure. So
awesome. All right. That was about all of the questions I had for you. Is there anything else you wanted to add before I let you go?
No. I just, again, I want to thank you for your time and, letting people like me get out and spread our word out.
No, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. All right. Again, I love the movie, and I'm going to be on the lookout for the sequel and the third one. So, and you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you again. We can always talk about Holistay too. And if you're ever in Vegas, let me know. We'll meet up for a drink and talk about horror.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Thanks again. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.